It's been 22 years since I was sold into these godforsaken hills. This August, my son, Caleb, is finally getting out of the hollow. Old Mama Boone unlocked the heavy iron shackles around my ankles, and for a split second, I thought I was free. I thought I was finally leaving. But my son, my own flesh and blood, just looked down at me and sneered, "Where the hell do you think you're going, you old bitch? You think you can just run away?" When Caleb brought that acceptance letter from State University up the mountain, the whole damn Boone's Hollow went apeshit. It was like the second coming of Christ. Mama Boone and Daddy Boone wanted to slaughter a hog right then and there to throw a feast. Daddy Boone kicked open the rusted iron gate of the pig pen, the one that stood waist high. I was curled up in the mud next to the slop trough, shrinking into his shadow like a frightened rat. He let out a booming, phlegm-filled laugh, grabbing Mama Boone, who was cackling loud enough to shake the trees. "Tell me I ain't got vision, woman. Cost me an extra $50 to swap for a student girl back then, but look at the stock. Tender meat breeds good brains." "Shut your trap, you old bastard," Mama Boone spat, grinning. "My grandbaby getting a scholarship is pure Boone luck. It ain't got nothing to do with this lazy sow here. Now drag that hog out." Mama Boone bent down and unlocked my shackles. Click. Almost everyone who could walk in the hollow was coming to gawk. She couldn't handle cooking for 200 inbred hillbillies by herself. She needed the slave. I waited 22 years for that sound. The first year Big Earl trafficked me here, they slapped these 12-pound chains on me. They were originally meant for tethering bulls. The whole village gathered. I stood there in a tattered burlap sack that barely covered my ass, my legs caked in pig shit and mud, reeking of ammonia and decay. But today, my heart was pounding with a twisted kind of joy. Not because my son got into college, but because everyone in this godforsaken village was going to die. They should have been dead a long time ago. Underneath the pig trough, buried in the muck, was a stash of rat poison I'd been hoarding for over a year. I slept in the pig pen. I wasn't allowed in the house. My retard husband, Bubba, slept in the main house with his mommy and daddy, on the big communal pallet in the living room. Bubba fried his brain with a high fever when he was a kid. His mind stuck somewhere around 6 years old. No local girl would spread her legs for him, so they had to buy a womb from the outside. I pretended I needed to take a piss and shuffled back to the pig pen. The hog had already been dragged out. The Boones and the neighbors were gathered around, watching the slaughter like it was a spectator sport. Squelch. One clean slice to the throat. Daddy Boone held a rusty metal basin to catch the jet of hot blood. The pig screamed, thrashing and kicking in its final moments, spraying crimson filth all over the old couple. I watched them from the shadows, a cold sneer on my face. "You're the ones who should be bleeding." The rat poison was already in my hand. I slept in the shed with the pigs, surrounded by stacks of corn sacks and seeds. To keep the rats from eating the profit, the Boones scattered poison in the corners. The sound of rats shrieking and dying was the soundtrack of every harvest season. Every night after the harvest, I'd steal a pinch. I didn't dare take too much. If the rats didn't die off, Mama Boone would get suspicious. I used a corn stalk to dip just a little bit out, shaking it onto a corn leaf and wrapping it up tight, hiding it under the heavy wooden trough. Every time I moved, those damn chains would clank. I had to squat, holding the heavy iron links to keep them silent while I gathered the death powder. I was more terrified of Daddy Boone hearing the chains than I was of dying. Every night, I lived in fear. Fear of hearing him humming some filthy tune as he walked toward the pig pen. Fear of seeing him shirtless, fanning himself with one hand while unbuckling his belt with the other. The old beast's wrinkled skin, slick with greasy, stinking sweat, pressing against me. The memory made bile rise in my throat. I would